Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Your family traditions, culture, and stories are your legacy. So is your health history. Join the All of Us research program and share your health information. Through research, your legacy can help build a healthier future for all of us.
Hello, everyone. This is Jarvis Escott with What's Happening Birmingham. Today, I have one the honor and pleasure. I want to throw out a little disclaimer. We follow each other on Instagram. Allie Imaghodor with the XVI Foundation. Allie, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Jarvis. How are you?
Great. Reason why I want to bring her on today because she has such an inspiring story about all the work her foundation is doing, but she has a personal story. And as you all know, like, we follow a lot of people on social media. And sometimes, like I was telling before the interview started, we become almost emotionally invested in their lives when we go through the news feed, because Facebook, for some reason or another, if you like a lot of people's posts, that's those people information you will see the most. Yep. So one reason why, once I started following her, she started telling me the story when she got pregnant and was having her son. And I'm going to start there, and I'm going to let you continue.
Yeah. No, Jarvis, you are a joy and you are a gem to Birmingham. And so we're happy to have you in this podcast. Again, I'm Allie Harrison Imaghodor. My journey with XVR Foundation is just kind of a extension of Fellowship of Love of my son. So XVI is actually his initials. So his name is Xander Vance Imaghodor. He is named after some very near and dear friends and family. So he has a lot of meaning in his name. And when we were thinking about what could we do to honor him, it only made sense that the name of the foundation kind of encompassed him as well. So Xander came to be. My husband and I had been together for 9,000 years, finally got married. And then kind of everything spiraled really fast after that. We got married, then we bought a house a month after. Then next thing you know, 9 months later, we had a baby at 23 weeks. So Xander was born in July of 2015. I pretty much started having complications at the very beginning of the pregnancy and was followed very closely, and, did all these different precautions and listened to the doctor. And you know how sometimes you just tell yourself like something isn't right, people are telling you one thing, but you're feeling led another way. And that's really what happened. So I remember my husband Oz was coming into town that morning, about 5 o'clock that morning. He was driving in and he came in and I was like, hey, so I'm having contractions, I'm in labor. And he's like, absolutely not, you're not in labor, you're going crazy. And I was like, no, pretty sure I'm in labor. So we call everybody and everybody's like, oh no, Allie, that's just Braxton Hicks, whatever. I was like, I am in labor and I'm coming to this hospital. So you better be ready for me when I get to this hospital. And so that was 3 days before Xander was born. Sure enough, I got to the hospital. I was 5 centimeters dilated at 22 weeks and 6 days. And it just all kind of went downhill from there. They gave me a bunch of medications to try to stop the labor. That caused some issues, caused me to gain a ton of fluid. I actually gained about 25 pounds of just all fluid within the 3 days of just being in labor. We finally got down to the point where they were hoping he would be born in his amniotic sac. That didn't happen. My water ended up breaking and there was kind of nothing we could do after that. So Xander came. Actually, he is very stubborn like his mama, as much as I kind of, it doesn't bode too well trying to parent yourself out of your child. But at 23 weeks, he was actually born breathing on his own. He didn't automatically require intubation. Right before he was born, they had Oz and I in the room and they asked Oz, like just acting like I wasn't there. They said, if something happens, do you want us to take care of your wife or the baby first? And I remember just interjecting. I was like, y'all don't see me? Like I'm right here. Like I can't be active in my own care.
Oh, wow.
And then so Oz is an engineer. He is very literal thinking. And he's just looking at me and he's like, okay, well, what makes the most sense? And I was like, first of all, you better take care of my baby because you know me, I'm not going to die. Okay. I got too much to do and I'm going to see my baby. So I was like, don't you worry about me. I will be fine. Just make sure you stay focused on the baby. And I'm still to this day so proud of him because he was like, everybody kind of told him he was crazy and they're like, why would you risk? And he was like, look, I'm gonna tell you something. I would rather my wife, be alive to haunt me than her haunting me if she's a ghost because something
Wow.
happened. So from there, Xander was born. I ended up, with a bunch of complications after birth. He ended up spending 19 weeks in the NICU. And so what Sweet Jarvis was talking about with my hashtag is I had so many people invested in Xander's story. We have this incredible community of friends and family, and Oz and I are both products of Birmingham City Schools. So we were born and raised here. So Birmingham is home. And so we gratefully had so many people who were interested in Xander's story. So I started a hashtag, The Adventures of XVI, and I just kept everybody updated. Xander will be 9 this year. And back then, 23 weeker. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, we said 2015. I was like, oh man, he almost, wow. Okay.
Right. I know. I'm like, how are you almost an adult? And he's almost taller than me. He caught up physically real quickly. Yeah. So we've just been, just updating people and keeping people posted on Xander. And, behind the scenes, I've always been a very vocal person, for whatever reason, people pay attention to me. And because of that, I like to use my platform and social media and just in my extension, in the community with other nonprofits to represent underserved people in any capacity. And so in sharing my story and Xander's story, I really came across so many people who were struggling in the same way but differently, and was able to find such meaningful connections with other people. And even when it was hard and sometimes I would, second guess something that I might share, I said, you know what? I pride myself on being authentic and kind of you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit when it comes to me. I'm always going to be the same person. So even when it was hard, I made it a point to post, and I'm just very grateful at the response and, the warmth we've received. And so, in 2020, just in the height of the pandemic, we were sitting at the kitchen table and I said, you know what? We've been helping people behind the scenes for a very long time. Let's make this official. Let's go ahead and file the 501c3. Let's get all of our friends who want to help and want to do something. Let's get everybody behind XVI and help it mean something bigger. Still small, we're still very grassroots, but help it mean something bigger for the community.
Yeah, because I noticed, like, right before we start, recording for the interview, I had watched a documentary about that, and it was, and I didn't know the percentage, because most times people just assume like, okay, if she goes to the hospital, assuming
you make it back out,
yeah, everything's gonna be okay,
right?
Or most of the time, the prevailing thought is, growing up, they was like, well, if the baby want to come, just start walking, and the baby will start coming out of nowhere. That's just you know what I mean? Just
the oversimplification of just the baby gets here and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just sad that for Black women that really isn't the case. And for me, I think because I am biracial, people assume one thing, and I sound how I sound. I'm super Southern. I joke and say it's because I was raised by white people. That's why I sound like this.
Okay.
But no, truly, it was just astonishing to me how when I was in the hospital, I was doing my best to advocate for myself, but then I was still being told that what I was feeling, oh, it's not that bad, or oh, you're saying that something isn't right, but everything looks good, for where you're at. And turns out, I find out after the fact that I had a blood clot that is the reason my body rejected my pregnancy. It ended up coming out the size of a basketball before my placenta was able to be delivered. Because of that, I developed an infection and I became septic as soon as I delivered.
Wow.
Had a seizure, had 105 fever. Literally, Oz is, sitting there like, okay, I know you told me to take care of the baby, but they whisked Xander off to the NICU immediately. And I'm sitting here seasoned, kind of going all over the place. They're trying to stabilize me. And I remember he had called all of his fraternity brothers because he was panicked, didn't know what to do. and everybody's sitting in the waiting room. And, when I finally came to and kind of got everything together and found out what happened, it was all just like a blur. And as 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 upsetting as it was, I felt validated because I was like, I told y'all
Yeah,
that this
everybody thought,
wasn't right. Like I told you this is not right. And just like, okay, yep, now here's the proof. It wasn't right.
yeah, because like you said, if something in your head, like they say, mother's intuition, knowing
Oh yeah.
something going
I was like,
on.
this isn't happening for no reason. I was like, I know my body, I paid attention to everything. Like something's not jiving here. And, and from that, I found out, there's so many people, especially African American women that struggle with fertility, especially because, now in day and age, we're getting married older. And the older you are, they say you have geriatric pregnancies and things like that.
Mhm.
But I ended up having the opposite problem. Fertility wasn't my issue. It was just my body and the things that I found out subsequently that I would have never known had I not gotten pregnant. That caused me to have a hysterectomy when Xander was 3, and we ended up being a one and done family. We went to all these specialists who were like, "Yeah, you've got a bunch of issues, but." We'll do this procedure and we'll do that procedure, and we'll hope to get you to 28 weeks. And let me tell you something, Jarvis, after having a baby in the NICU for 1 day is too long, but
Mhm.
after having Xander in the hospital for 19 weeks and somebody just basically being like, oh, you can have babies, so just keep having them, and just, oh, another NICU stay, what is that? It was just so ridiculous for people to kind of diminish what I had gone through physically.
Mhm.
And, I just told people, I said, can you promise me that if I have another baby, that I'll be healthy with the child that I have in this new baby?
Mhm.
And they're like, well, no, you still carry a very high potential bleeding risk and, X, Y, and Z. And I was like, and y'all sitting up here telling me to go through this again? No, thank you.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
because
because so many people are just like, oh, okay, well, if you don't have a problem getting pregnant, just keep getting pregnant and hope for the best. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, that's not the answer.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times people assume like this one size fits all medicine
Absolutely.
that applies to everybody, and it doesn't.
Yep. Or that Black women can endure pain bigger than anybody. So if they're complaining about pain, oh, that's nothing. And it's just like, no, no, no. We deserve to be validated in anything that we express.
So the 100, let me get it right. You said 19 weeks, so it's almost equivalent, almost 133 days, or was something. I think
Exactly 133 days. You
okay,
got it.
133 days. Like, how do you all? I know faith, faith in God is one way you got through it, but some of the things you and your husband was experiencing during that time.
Yeah,
Tell me.
so I think the biggest thing was, for me, it wasn't one of those things where I was just able to go home immediately. I was in the
Mhm.
hospital for 10 days just, dealing with
Mhm.
everything from my delivery. And then, realizing, figuring out everything, thankfully we were both blessed to be working at that point in time,
Mhm.
but usually when you take maternity leave, you're at home with the baby. And so
Mhm.
for me, because I knew Xander would be in the NICU so long, it was trying to navigate, okay, when do I take time off? When do I go back to work to keep building up PTO so I can later take time off later? Like I knew I wasn't going to qualify for short term disability by the time he made it home. So, just trying to figure out all these things. And, kind of the beauty of it was having him at Princeton. I was born at Princeton. My mom at that point in time had worked at Princeton for almost 30 years. I had a good family there. So I had people who were always looking out for Xander. His godmother, who his middle name is after, is an oncologist at the hospital. And so they didn't have 24-hour visiting hours. So Oz and I would go to work during the day. Tish would keep an eye on him during the day, go and see him. At that point in time, you could only have 4 approved visitors outside of mom and dad. So Oz
Mhm.
has a bunch of brothers. I had, some family. So it was like picking and choosing who could see the baby in person and then who had to look behind the mirror. It was all these things that, you never had to sit and think about that we're like, okay, we gotta make some firm decisions on some things. And so it was just exhausting, honestly, working all day and then going home, taking a shower, and then coming back and, only being able to spend a couple hours with your baby. And, I still, have some PTSD. I'm working on it in therapy, but of you just, the things that I missed. I had to ask to change my own kid's diaper. I had to ask for when I could hold him the first time. I had to, be like, hey, can you make sure you don't give him a bath until we get there at night to be able to give him a bath? There are all these like little things that people, I don't want to say take for granted because that's not what I mean, but all these like little milestones that you get when you take your baby home that we unfortunately just didn't get and that we had to ask for. Xander was almost 2 weeks old before I was ever able to hold him. And I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. It was just one of those things. And, now he's almost as tall as I am. But back in the day,
Oh,
he
wow.
literally fit in our hand. He was
Oh,
1 pound 5 ounces. He was just the littlest thing. And so looking back at it, it was just us just really struggling emotionally, trying to figure out, make sure I was okay health wise, but then
mhm.
also just getting the constant updates. And, when you have a micro preemie, every day is a different roller coaster. He could have one day where things were going really great. And the next day, they're rushing everybody in to do some sort of intervention because something happened. And because we couldn't be there 24/7, because I couldn't, sleep there or room in, it was always like waiting by the phone, wondering if something was going to happen. So we both got depressed at some points. We both were very anxious.
Mhm.
Um, and we really just did our best to kind of communicate with each other. Oz and I have been friends for forever. So it
Mhm.
was really great for us to just really be able to get down to the heart of the matter of things and, take some of our emotions out of things because when you're in that stressful of a situation, like anything he did pissed me off, Jarvis. Like the thermostat would be gone and I'd just be like raging and crazy. And it's just like, okay, dial it back, Allie. You're not
Mhm.
actually mad at the thermostat. You're upset because we're in this crazy situation that, we could have never expected.
Yeah, and then also I know you was probably experienced don't want to, you can have the thoughts of blaming yourself, like thinking like, did I do something wrong?
I still struggle with that to this day,
Mhm.
because and sorry if I get emotional during this, but it's still, very fresh. Even though it's almost been 9 years, but definitely even still to this day, as things happen, I tell myself, is all of this my fault because I couldn't carry him? What could I have done differently? What should I have done differently? And now that I know deep down, like the logical me, but the emotional and the mama me, you just can't help but just have your heart go out when something happens. And, I do my best to tell myself it's not my fault and not to blame me because deep down, like I said, I know it isn't. But still to this day, that is very much a struggle. And all the other NICU moms that I meet, it's not something that's unique to me. It's something that anybody, even if you have a disabled child that was born, perfectly healthy originally, to term, when you just have a child that has differing needs, it's hard to not blame yourself. It's almost an automatic response. Even if you know better, sometimes it's hard to do better in your mind when those emotions kick in.
So with your organization, what did you want your like the mission and the goals for it to be?
Yeah, so really, my goal is to just be a shoulder to lean on. I
Mhm.
tell everybody I'm just a mama. I don't have all the answers, but I remember feeling like it was a dog fight every single day when Xander got out of the NICU to get him the services that he needed, to get people to pay me some attention. And then I'd look around in the waiting room and I'd see, a Spanish speaking family getting turned away because they couldn't understand or they couldn't fill out the paperwork. Or, a family who didn't have a high education level struggling to describe what they knew was going on with their
Mhm.
child. And it affects you because you're going through what you're going through. But, I've always prided myself in helping other people. Is what I've been good at my whole life. I'm very grateful for that. And then so I just remember, looking around and I was like, we got to do something about all these little things. Oz and I have been very blessed in our life. We work hard for the things that we have. And so, we're like, we need to share the love with other people. So the mission of XVI is to just be a shoulder to lean on. Xander is currently his diagnosis is autism and a global developmental delay due to his premature birth. And with that, it encounters so much, but
Mhm.
we get excited about the little things. I remember he struggled with fine motor skills, and I remember the first day he opened his little snack Ziploc bag by
Okay.
himself, and we went crazy. We're like, did he just open that bag? And it's so one of those things that typical people wouldn't get that and understand why that's such a big deal. But I remember reaching out to a couple other moms. I'm like, y'all, guess what Xander just did? And everybody's like, oh my God, yes. Or like I have moms call me and they're like, I know nobody else will understand, but I know you're going to get this. And I just want to celebrate every single win. We went through, life thinking that the NICU was going to be the hardest part of Xander's
Mhm.
journey. And I wish I could go back and tell my 27-year-old self that, oh, sister, you're going to struggle a whole lot more
Mhm.
once he's out than when he was in. So XVI is just about human connection. It doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. There's so
Mhm.
many organizations that just focus on autism or Down syndrome, which
Mhm.
those things are really great to focus on. But what we found was that for so long, Xander kind of fell in the in between with just this delayed diagnosis.
Mhm.
And with insurance and with services from other people, it was one of those things where it was like, oh yeah, we can't help you if you're in the in between. And so that's what we pride ourselves on is even if somebody just has a speech delay due to a speech impediment or any sort of thing that requires interventional therapy, we're going to be there to help support you, to help get you with the right team of people that fits the personality with you and your child. We're going to send you to a pediatrician that's going to listen and not give you, issues with the referrals you need. We're going to help you with insurance if you need to navigate your plans and what would best support your child with the needs that
Mhm.
they have. We support the teachers and the therapists who are out here in the trenches with us and helping us, and so vital. Xander's been in therapy since he was 9 months old, and he's 9 this year. And
Mhm.
so all those relationships that we built have just been because of trust and respect. And so many people think that, a therapy may not be for their child, but it's really like, no, you have to find the right therapist. You have to find the right fit for them to be able to thrive off each other. The best thing that I love about Xander's team is how they always encourage us about how smart he is and about how they learn from him just as much as he learns from them. And so it's just that mutually beneficial relationship of respect and trust that, we try to build with families of kids who have disabilities and developing needs, but also the therapists and the teachers that serve them as well.
Can only imagine, like, once you have to send them to actual, like, school, public school, some
Oh,
schools,
yeah.
depending on what your zip code is, may not have.
Oh yeah. Or it literally is one of those things where people are like, so what do I do? And I'm like, your best interest would be to move to a zip code that is going to be able to provide those services. But if that's not realistic for you, I'm the person who will be virtually in an IEP meeting with them with the school. I'll present in person with somebody because a lot of times, like you said, people just don't take
Mhm.
you and just little old you seriously. You have to have somebody behind you that's like, no, I know what the law is. I know what his rights are, and just to be able to be in their face and just say, hey, I don't accept that. And
Mhm.
so a huge part of, having a child with a disability is just beating the door down, just saying, hey, I know my child. And, just saying that this is something that he deserves and we're gonna fight for it.
Oh, wow. So have you done any, you've been in existence since 2020.
Hmm.
What some past or even I saw a event you all did on Instagram recently.
Hmm.
Was it you
Oh,
did?
Yeah, so we do a sensory friendly holiday party every year. Just because depending on your child's disability or developing need, um typical parties and just going to the McWayne Center and things like that can be very overwhelming, not just for the child because of the sensory issues, but for us as parents as well, because you see people judging you because your kid's loud and happy, or your kid may not be able to express verbally how they feel. Xander uses a combination of sign language, verbal language. He has a communication device that he uses, and so just dealing with all those judgments that you're already in a heightenedly stressed
Yeah.
situation, and you have all these outside people, just judging you without asking any questions, or you have kids who are just staring and the parents are hushing them instead of letting them come over and ask questions, and embrace the child, because children are honest and children learn just very purely just by answering questions. And so that's why I always encourage parents. I'm like, no, if your child has a question or if they want to come up, let them come up. Let us talk to them, because the more we embrace each other, the more everybody's going to be comfortable to where we're not going to have these separate events. Everybody's going to be able to have this inclusive environment where everybody can thrive. So what we try to do is just have these events that are tailored for anybody to be welcome. We've got a quiet area for the kids who need quiet. We've got an area if you want to run around and be crazy. We do a creative movement session where we have a little dance party just for everybody to get the wiggles out and kind of have some fun. It was so fun this year because all the parents got involved, and we were like, we're all too old for this, y'all. Like, we need to leave it to the kids. But yeah, so the sensory friendly party I'm very proud of every year. Also, I'm really, proud of working in conjunction with Xander's speech pathologist on communication boards that we're providing to local parks. We have them in all the parks in Homewood. We've got them at the elementary schools in Homewood. We're also working with a couple of the other municipalities around the greater Birmingham area to get communication boards. We're also working with Child Care Resources and their Head Start program, and should be next month. We're going to be installing communication boards at all of their playgrounds. And so what that does is just kids who are struggling with, verbal or expressive communication, they're able to go to that communication board, and play is not a chore because they're able to go to that communication board, point to what they're trying to say, or point to what they need. And it just allows a safer and a better environment for everybody because they have access to communication without having to lug around, a heavy communication device while they're just trying to play. And from that, we've even found it beneficial for kids who are early readers or early learners, or kids who are learning English as a second language, being able to see that visual picture and being able to read the letters and sound out the board. So it's been really, really cool to see how it's serving so many purposes. And that's what the message we try to share about inclusion is people think, well, oh, you're only catering to kids with disabilities. And that's the thing. Anything for somebody with a disability can be used for a typical child, but it's not the other way around. And so that's what we want to make people aware of, is that all these adaptations make it for everybody. We're not excluding anybody, but society as a whole is built ableist. It's built for you to think that a ramp is going out of its way instead of being a basic human right for somebody who is physically unable to walk. And so that's what we do a lot of. And I'm very proud of that. We've got, good supporters in our board members and in our donors that really make it a point to, talk about inclusion and acceptance everywhere they go.
So I like this. It's a great segue. So, man, I know you're going to be like, I should have brought all this out on the index card before we start.
No!
Some of your supporters, the board members, people who have supported the organization so far.
Yeah, so we've got a really great group of board members. So we have Sherelle Meeks, who has a daughter with autism. That is a dear friend of mine. We also have Katisha Vance, who is an oncologist and Xander's godmother. Very proud of that. She is just a great champion for overall health and awareness in a community setting. So she has just been an incredible support to us. We also have Clifford Myers, who is a pilot pilot and a great dear friend who uses all of his wealthy connections to get us lots of donations. So we appreciate that. And then we also have Oz, my husband, who is our chief advocacy officer, who he is incredible. He's doing dads groups, he's doing meetups, he's doing the things that, when dads are like, man, my friends try their best, but they just say some of the dumbest things sometimes, and I don't want to be around that. So, sometimes they just meet and they go for a walk and they vent, or they meet up for a drink, just to have space away, because I'm very grateful in that Oz is a very hands-on and active father. To be honest, Xander prefers him to me because he's the fun parent, and I'm the one that's like, we got to do this. Like, let's do this. Let's push, buddy. Let's push. Then we also have Janine Bailey, who is a part of the Southern Company family. Janine has been a dear, dear friend of mine and a support from the beginning through Xander's journey. And she has such a huge following. And so she does a great job at getting our message out there and then supporting individually as well. And then as far as outside of our board, we've got great supporters in Stringfellow Lumber, who have just done very generous donations every single year that XVI has been a thing. We've got Pedaling Post. We've got Publix Charities. We've got Altech, who supported us. We also have Hybrid Outdoor. We have just, what I'm really proud of is we have such a diverse group of friends and donors and people who just make it a point to support us because they love Xander and they see value in what we're doing. And so it's just really incredible when people invest their time and especially their hard-earned money into, supporting us, especially in a crazy economy like what we have. We've just been so fortunate to have people just constantly supporting us.
So if they want to support your organization, where do they go?
Yeah, so we have a website. We have XVI BHAM, it's BHAM, so XVIBHAM.org. We also have Instagram, which is XVI BHAM. We have Facebook, that's XVI BHAM, and we also are on LinkedIn. So if you want to support us and, you don't have the funds, what I tell people is that an investment of time and is just as important to us as funding. So if you take the time to like our posts, engage our posts like you're so awesome at doing, Jarvis, or sharing our message with somebody that needs it. The best thing that I can do as a person and as a mom is help another mom not struggle as much as I did in the beginning when we were trying to put everything together. So I tell people that all the time. I'm like, don't just focus on being able to give us money. Being able to invest and share our message is just as important and valuable to us.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like I started, first part of this interview was just, it was something about your story that was so inspiring. And you just got emotionally just invested. I always tell people, the people who you follow on social media, you are somewhat invested in their lives. Even if you don't even know them, or only met them a couple of times in passing.
Right.
Well, your story was so inspiring, and how you all just kept going and you didn't let one challenge get you down. You stayed always positive and kept us up to date. And one thing, even during the pandemic, it's scream when you're at home, you had nothing but be on social media.
Exactly.
And everything. So, I'm personally gonna continue to pray for you all, pray for your organization. And if anything I can do to help you, and just almost like you said, giving funds is great, but also giving time. And the thing that just kind of, I would say, came in my spirit is advocate to your local city government. I'm just thinking about the playgrounds and just making sure that these things are put in place, because it helps more than just even special needs. It can help children even get more learning, increase their learning.
Absolutely. Aware of the world around them. I think so often that we're worried about, exposing our kids to too much, but there's the realities of the world that you can't always hide your children from. And embracing other children shouldn't be something that we should be afraid of or ashamed of. And sometimes, we're worried about how people will react. But for me and my folks, we're like, I'd much rather you stop and ask me a question than just sit there and stare. That's always going to be where we come from. And Jarvis, I just want to make sure I say thank you, because this time that you're investing right now, and that you always invest in supporting us, it's invaluable. There are other organizations who make you pay hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars just to get your message out there. So you always being so genuine in your care and support and just your love of Birmingham it's really inspiring to me, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you. But one thing I always want to do is spotlight people making things happen. And what you just took, a lot of people took what happened to themselves and kept it to themselves. You took that and took that as almost, I want to call it an anointed calling, to say, hey, this is my mission. This is where I feel like I wouldn't say something, we're put on this earth, but this is my purpose.
Absolutely. It is. I was like, okay, Lord, I hear you, Lord. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I just want to applaud you for the success that you all have had. Like,
Thank you.
Local partners, community partners engaged with this. And one thing I always like to spotlight different work, because you always have nonprofits, the normal I'm going to say no normal nonprofit, but the nonprofits everybody always see. But there's a lot of
the big names
in our area that's doing things in such unique categories that this is a service that, one thing I will say, and anybody watching, we know someone that has a child with special needs.
Absolutely.
So if you all want to support this organization, you'll probably see the website. I'm probably going to put a hashtag on there too, because I'm telling you, if you follow the hashtag.
If you follow the hashtag, you're going to keep updated.
Yeah, you're going to keep updated. And that guy, Xander, I'm telling you, he is full of energy. Yeah, he really is full of energy. I can tell.
If we could bottle that up, we'd be some rich people, Jarvis.
Yes. So thank you, Allie, for coming on. Thank your husband, Oz, and Xander, for continuing.
Absolutely. For being quiet so they didn't ruin our interview.
Yes, a walking testimony.
Thank you so much, Jarvis. You are a truly incredible human being, and we're really grateful to have your support.
Yeah, so this ain't gonna be the last. I'm gonna probably keep updating from time to time, see what you all are doing. And if you got any upcoming events, definitely let me know.
Look, you're gonna be at our fundraiser this year, so just clear your calendar. I know you're Mr. Socialite, so
yeah, I definitely know. I definitely want to come, because, like I said, it's just your inspiring story and how you kept going, and you helping others people that just inspire other people,
Right.
And everything. So thank you all for watching. Please check out What's Happening Birmingham for more interviews. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out the audio version of this on Apple Podcasts. Thank you all again, and have a great day. And Allie, what's that hashtag again?
Hashtag XVIBham. Hashtag The Adventures of XVI.
Yes. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.